Join me as I give you a behind the scenes look at what it's like for me to set up my studio to film an art piece from start to finish. I like to think of myself as an alla prima, fast, all in one painter. And this sometimes comes in handy when I am craving to paint and I want to get things done in a very speedy and efficient way. So here's a behind the scenes look on what it's like for me to paint in one full session. For this painting, I use my handmade paper that I absolutely love, and I love the deckled edges. With the speed of social media and the pressures of producing quickly, I think I've produced a skill that I can't tell if it's hindering me or if it's benefiting me in some ways. I have always been a fast paced person. I'm not sure if that's because I'm from the city and the city has always been a fast lifestyle, but I've noticed that painting really fast has benefited me in some ways and hindered me in others. I typically set up my paint station, prepare the material, get all the things I need to film. I'm also working on my handmade paper that I'm so proud of. And I also wanted to dive in what this paper would feel like painting with gouache. So, as I prepare to set up my station, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of see how fast things go. And I was able to make 2 paintings in a matter of 2 hours. And of course, this video is not going to be 2 hours long, so I had to create snippets and really capture the key elements of what it really is like to set up and break down a paint station. Here's my manager. He's always watching and observing and judging me. That's my dog Fauci. He loves to be in my room while I'm painting. He is currently laying down, so I do have to walk over him every now and then. So on a typical day when I'm in the mood to paint, I like to set up my paint station closest to the window depending on what I'm doing and how I plan on filming things. This is not my typical setup, but I was observing an image that I had on the computer to kind of test out this paper. And I typically don't copy other images. I purposely did it for the sake of having a subject that is neutral and true to life and scale and all of the above. So I reference a flower pot, which you'll see in a few. So again, going back to my setup, I have to prepare the table, prepare the tripod, be managed by my dog, have my phone ready and charged, make sure that I have my brushes, my water, and my pencil. This is my favorite pencil. It is the General's Kimberly pencil, and it is 4H. That's my favorite type of lead. But I noticed that with my handmade paper, this particular pencil was actually a little bit too hard. So 4H is on the harder side of the leads, but it was starting to kind of scratch and rip some of the portions of the paper. So I had to be really light. And if I had to go back, I would have chosen a B lead pencil. So anyways, I wanted to go in with something neutral, something that I typically don't paint. I usually paint landscapes. I do paint flowers. I have to say I do paint flowers, but I don't typically copy someone else's image. And this image was from Unsplash, so it was royalty free, and I was able to kind of just have fun and pay attention to shadows and not really create my own still life and worry about setting that up, because that becomes a whole nother process if I were to set up a still life. So as I work through this paper, I started to notice that this is really tough. This paper is a challenge, and I'm not sure if it's because there is no binding or if it's just the type of paper that I use to make the pulp with, but the gouache definitely picks up much more pigment on this paper than the watercolor did. And if you haven't seen that video of my prior handmade process of this paper, check out that video where I go from start to finish, from scratch, from pulp to painting. And it was so much fun creating this paper. I love being creative in as many ways as possible. I never thought I'd be painting on my own handmade paper. And so while I was painting, I wanted to test out a couple things. So I tested out my signatures several times. I tested out some color pencils. The color pencils weren't as fun as the gouache paint was. And although I was able to get more coverage and kind of almost create a ground with the color pencils, you'll see that I eventually go over this with gouache. The gouache on this painting is a little bit more vibrant than the first gouache painting with the flowers. And I think that the reason for that is because of the color pencil's wax or binding, or I'm not sure what it was, but you can start to see the vibrancy in the gouache come through. Whereas that first painting, the vibrancy sort of absorbed into the paper. So I think that you have to treat handmade paper, or in particular this handmade paper, with a sort of gesso-like treatment. So it does act as if it were a raw canvas. So I think going forward, when using this paper, I might use a matte medium and or again use that color pencil technique, because that was accidental. I didn't expect that to happen, but it seems to work. And I think that coloring with color pencil does help to create like a ground and covers some of the spots of the natural paper. And you can kind of see that I was just having fun, nothing really in particular. I was also playing around with signing the paper, but overall, I really enjoyed painting on this handmade paper again. I really enjoyed the entire process from start to finish. And I actually just enjoy seeing a lot of the process from start to finish, even just rewatching some of this video content and seeing how I set up, seeing how I break down. And for me, on a typical painting day, I do break down my station primarily because I use the space for other things and I try to avoid clutter when I can. There are days where I do end up just leaving my paint station up. I typically paint on the floor, and for most of you that have been watching my videos for some time, you do see me on the floor very often for most of my paintings. But when it gets to certain angles and certain videos that I have to film, it is better for me to be closer to the light source and almost have an easier flow of my station. So here I am capturing the final shots with which you've just finished watching. Let me know which one you prefer better. Do you like the landscape or do you like the floral? I'm interested in testing out another set of paintings for a future video, so I would love to hear your feedback. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.